The soft sound of a brush moving through thick black hair stopped Owen Quillin in his tracks. It was barely sunrise in August of 1878, and the air inside his stable, just outside San Bernardino, California, was still cool from the night. Owen had come out early, planning to check on Thunder before the ranch hands woke up. Thunder was not a horse anyone checked on casually. He was a 4-year-old stallion with a temper as wild as the desert wind. He had kicked 2 men hard enough to send them home broken, and had tried to bite anyone foolish enough to get too close without care. Even Owen, who had raised him since he was broken, could not walk straight into his stall without taking his time. But now, standing in the doorway, Owen saw something that made his heart pound. A woman stood inside Thunder's stall. She was brushing him, and Thunder was standing still, not tense, not angry, not ready to strike. Still. The brush moved slowly down his neck in long, steady strokes. The woman hummed under her breath, a soft melody that floated through the stable like a prayer. Thunder's ears were forward, his dark eyes half closed, his body leaning into her touch like he had been waiting for it. Owen's hand moved to the revolver at his hip out of habit. No one came onto his ranch without permission. No one touched Thunder without regret. Yet here this stranger stood, calm as sunrise, brushing the one creature on the ranch that trusted no one. The early light slipped through cracks in the wooden boards and fell across her face. She was tall and lean, wearing a simple cotton dress faded from wear. Her dark blonde hair was pulled back in a braid that reached down her back. There was nothing fancy about her, nothing loud, but there was something steady about her hands, something sure. She must have felt his eyes on her, because she turned slowly. Her eyes were pale green, not fearful, not guilty, just aware. "I am sorry," she said softly. "I did not mean to trespass. I was passing through town, and I heard him." Owen's voice came out rough. "Heard him?" Thunder did not call to strangers. Thunder barely tolerated Owen. "He was lonely," she said quietly. "Angry, yes, but mostly lonely." Thunder let out a low sound and pressed his nose against her shoulder as if agreeing. Owen felt something shift deep in his chest. He stepped closer, careful, watching for any sign that Thunder would turn wild again. But the stallion only flicked his tail and stayed near the woman. "What is your name?" Owen asked, but she hesitated only a second. "Lydia," she said. "Lydia Orton." "Owen Quillin," he replied, tipping his hat slightly. "You just did something no man on this ranch has managed in 2 years. A faint smile touched her lips. "My father raised horses. He taught me most animals people call mean are just scared. If you listen to them long enough, they tell you what they need. And Thunder told you what he needed?" She nodded. "Space. Patience. No staring him down. He does not like feeling challenged." Owen blinked. Charlie Morrison had looked Thunder straight in the eye the day the horse nearly tore off his ear. "You speak horse," Owen said quietly. "I suppose I do," Lydia answered. She stepped back from Thunder. The stallion shifted, unhappy with the distance, and Owen felt his surprise grow even stronger. "I should go," she said. I was only passing through. I did not mean to cause trouble." "Do you need work?" Owen asked before he could stop himself. She froze. "What kind of work?" she asked carefully. "Horse work," Owen said. "I have 8 others besides Thunder. My men are cattle hands. Good men. But horses are not their strength. I need someone who understands them the way you clearly do." She studied him, measuring him the way he had measured her. "I am here to work," she said slowly, Nothing else. You have my word, Owen said firmly. You work hard. You get paid. You have a small cabin on the property. Safe. Private. No man here will cross a line, or he answers to me. The silence between them felt heavy. Finally, Lydia nodded. I can do the work. And just like that, Owen's life changed. The cabin he showed her was small, but clean. One bed, a table, 2 chairs, a stove, and a window that looked toward the San Bernardino mountains. When Lydia stepped inside, her hand brushed over the table as if she could not believe it was real. This is mine? She asked softly. All yours, Owen said. He saw something in her eyes then. Not greed, not pride, relief. Breakfast that morning was quieter than usual. 6 ranch hands stared openly at the new arrival. Owen introduced her simply as the new horse handler. His tone made it clear she was to be respected. Charlie was the first to speak. You any good with that demon stallion? He asked. Thunder is not a demon, Lydia replied calmly. You just need to stop looking him in the eye when you enter his stall. Charlie blinked. The men listened as she explained how horses think, how they react, how they remember fear. By the end of the meal, even the toughest of them seemed thoughtful. The weeks that followed proved Owen had made the right choice. Lydia rose before dawn each day. By the time the sun came up, the horses were groomed, exercised, calmer. Even Thunder began letting others approach, as long as they followed her instructions. Owen found himself watching her often. She worked without complaint. She rarely spoke about herself. There was a guarded look behind her green eyes, like someone who had learned the hard way not to trust too easily. One night, nearly a month after she arrived, Owen heard quiet crying in the stable. He followed the sound. Lydia was sitting in the straw inside Thunder's stall, knees pulled to her chest. Thunder stood close, his nose resting gently on her shoulder. Owen felt his chest tighten. Lydia, he said softly. She wiped her face quickly. I am sorry. What happened? She hesitated. Today is 5 years since my father died, she whispered. He is buried in Kansas. I never got to say goodbye properly. Owen sat across from her in the straw. I lost my father too, he said quietly. The ache does not leave. It just becomes something you carry. For a long moment they sat in silence. Then she told him more. Her mother died when she was 12. Her father raised horses in Kansas. When he died, she tried to keep the business going, but no one would buy from a young woman alone. The bank took the land. She married a man named Robert Orton. He seemed kind at first, she said flatly, but he wanted control, not partnership. Owen's hands clenched. He hit me once, she continued. That was enough. I left in the night and have been traveling west ever since. Rage burned inside Owen, but he kept his voice steady. You are safe here, he said, as long as you want to stay. She looked at him then, really looked at him. For the first time in a long time, she whispered. I believe that. And sitting there in the quiet stable, with Thunder standing between them like a silent guardian, Owen realized something he had not allowed himself to feel in years. He was beginning to care for her, not just as a worker, not just as a stranger who tamed his horse, but as a woman who had survived more than most men ever would. And deep down, he knew. The morning he found her brushing the one horse that trusted no one was not an accident. It was the start of something neither of them could yet see. But it was coming, and it would change everything. The sun still rose over the golden hills outside San Bernardino. The cattle still needed tending, The horses still stamped inside their stalls. The world moved forward as if nothing had shifted. But everything had shifted. Owen felt it every time Lydia walked into a room. After that night in the stable, something softer existed between them. It was not spoken, not rushed, but it was there, steady and growing like roots beneath the ground. Lydia continued her work, as if nothing had changed. She rose before dawn, brushed the horses, checked hooves, repaired worn tack, and spoke to each animal in that low, calm voice that had first caught Owen's attention. Thunder followed her everywhere inside the stable. The horse who once tried to kick down his own stall now waited for her each morning like a loyal dog. The ranch hands began seeking her advice without embarrassment. Even Charlie admitted Thunder had not tried to bite him in weeks. "She is magic," Jake muttered one afternoon. "No," Owen said quietly. "She just listens." As summer turned toward fall, Lydia began joining the others for supper more often. Rosa welcomed her like family, teaching her new recipes in the kitchen while laughing in Spanish when Lydia burned her first batch of biscuits. Owen found excuses to linger near the kitchen door. He watched the way Lydia smiled when she forgot herself, watched how her shoulders slowly relaxed week by week, as if she were finally learning what safety felt like. Still, she kept a careful wall around her heart. Until November, the day Owen asked her to ride out with him to check the far fence line. The sky was clear blue, the air crisp. They rode side by side in comfortable silence, the land stretching wide and open before them. When they reached the fence, Owen barely looked at it. The boards were fine. He had known that before he left. "Lydia," he said, turning toward her. "Are you happy here?" She looked down at him from her saddle. "I am happier than I have been in years," she said honestly. "But?" he asked. She dismounted and stood beside him, her boots crunching softly in the dry grass. "But I am scared," she admitted. "Scared to believe this will last. Every time something good has happened in my life, it has been taken from me." Owen stepped closer. "I cannot promise the world will never try to hurt you again," he said. "But I can promise you will not face it alone." She looked at him, her green eyes shining in the sunlight. "Why do you care so much?" she asked quietly. Owen did not look away. "Because I am falling in love with you," he said. The words felt heavy and true between them. He waited, heart pounding. Lydia stepped closer until he could see the gold flecks in her eyes. "I am falling in love with you too," she whispered. "And I am tired of being afraid." Owen cupped her face gently. "Then do not run," he said. When he kissed her, it was slow and careful, as if both of them understood how fragile and important that moment was. They rode back to the ranch hand in hand. The ranch hands pretended not to stare. Rosa did not pretend at all. She clapped and declared it was about time. Their courtship was simple and steady. Owen brought her wildflowers from the hills. Lydia read aloud from books Owen ordered from Los Angeles. They took evening rides under fading sunsets, talking about small dreams and quiet hopes. For the first time since her father's death, Lydia allowed herself to imagine a future. And for the first time in years, Owen felt fully alive. Winter arrived with a sudden storm that tested the ranch. Cold rain hammered the roofs. Wood wind rattled doors. One of the younger mares panicked and broke free into the storm. Without hesitation, Lydia ran after her. Owen's heart nearly stopped. He grabbed a lantern and followed into the darkness. He found her 20 minutes later, standing in an open field, soaked to the bone, singing softly while the trembling mare pressed against her side. "She is all right," Lydia called over the wind. Owen pulled her into his arms once they returned. "You are more important than any horse," he said fiercely. "Do not scare me like that." Lydia looked up at him through rain and tears. "I love you," she said. He kissed her hard, the storm raging around them. By February, Owen knew he could not wait any longer. He asked Rosa for advice first. "You love her," Rosa said simply. "Then ask her." He planned nothing grand. Just lanterns in the stable, wildflowers scattered across the floor, Thunder standing calm in his stall, watching. Lydia stepped inside and stopped in surprise. "This is where it began," Owen said. He dropped to one knee and held out a simple gold band with a small emerald the color of her eyes. "Will you marry me?" he asked. Tears slid down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will." Thunder let out a soft sound, as if giving approval. They planned a spring wedding, but spring never came the way they expected. In early March, a stranger rode up to the ranch gate. Owen was repairing a wagon wheel when one of the young hands ran toward him. "There is a man asking for Lydia," he said breathlessly. "Says his name is Robert Orton." The name hit Owen like a blow. Ice moved through his veins. He walked toward the gate slowly, but the man waiting there had greasy hair, narrow eyes, and a cruel smile. "You must be the rancher hiding my wife," Robert said. "Lydia is not yours," Owen replied coldly. "She is legally my wife," Robert sneered, "and I have come to collect her." Rage flared in Owen's chest. "She left you because you hit her," he said. "She is safe here, and you are not stepping foot on this land." Robert's smile faded. "I will go to the sheriff," he said. "The law is on my side." "Then go," Owen said calmly, "but you will not take her." Jake, Charlie, and the other hands stood behind Owen, silent and solid. Robert studied them, then spat into the dirt. "This is not over," he warned before riding away. Owen ran to the stable. Lydia stood inside Thunder's stall, pale and shaking. "He found me," she whispered. Owen pulled her close. He is not taking you anywhere." "But legally I am still his wife," she said. "A judge could force me back." Owen looked at her, mind made up. "Then we get married today." Her eyes widened. "Today?" "Yes, before he can do anything. We make it legal. You become my wife in every sense." She searched his face. "All right," she said finally. "Let us do it." They rode into town that afternoon. The ceremony was small and simple. A preacher. 2 witnesses. No flowers. No music. But when the preacher declared them husband and wife, Owen felt the weight of the world lift from his shoulders. Lydia was his, protected by law and by love. They went straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Martinez studied their certificate and nodded. "As far as this county is concerned," he said firmly, "Mrs. Quillin is under your protection. What if that man returns? He answers to me." Robert did come back to town. He was told clearly that Lydia was no longer his wife, and that any attempt to harass her would lead to jail. He left that same day. No one saw him again. Back at the ranch, Rosa cried tears of joy when she learned they were married. "You still owe me a proper celebration," she declared. Owen laughed for the first time in days. That night, as they sat together on the porch watching the sun set over the hills, Lydia leaned against him. "I never thought I would be someone's wife again," she said softly. "Not like this." "Not like what?" Owen asked. "Not like something chosen," she said. "Not like something safe." Owen kissed the top of her head. "You are not owned," he said. You are loved." For the first time since she had run from Kansas, Lydia truly believed she was home. And though neither of them could see the full path ahead, they both knew one thing. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Wildflowers covered the fields in yellow and blue. The air felt new, fresh, full of promise. And though Owen and Lydia were already married in the eyes of the law, Rosa made sure the entire county gathered to celebrate what she called the proper beginning. Long wooden tables were set up outside the main house. Neighbors rode in from miles away. Laughter filled the yard. Thunder stood in his stall, with ribbons braided into his mane, watching everything with calm, dark eyes. Lydia wore a pale blue dress Rosa had helped her sew. It was simple, but it made her green eyes shine like spring grass. Owen wore his best suit and could barely take his eyes off his wife. When they stood before their friends and renewed their vows in front of everyone, Owen felt the same certainty he had felt the morning he first saw her brushing Thunder. She was different. She was his. And this life they were building was real. The months that followed were the happiest Owen had ever known. The ranch prospered. The horses under Lydia's care grew strong and well-trained. People began traveling from Los Angeles and even farther north to buy horses from the Quillin ranch. And they said the animals were calmer, smarter, easier to handle. Lydia always gave the same answer when asked her secret. "Respect," she would say. "You cannot force trust. You earn it." Owen built her a larger home that year, a real house with a wraparound porch facing the hills she loved. Shelves filled with books lined the parlor walls. Lydia's paintings hung in neat rows, capturing sunrises, horses, and the stable where it had all begun. Then, in September of 1879, Lydia stood in the stable, holding a brush, and turned to Owen with shining eyes. "I am with child," she said. For a moment, he could not breathe. Then he laughed so loud, Thunder jerked his head up in surprise. "We are having a baby?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered, smiling through tears. Owen lifted her gently and held her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. "You will be the finest mother," he said. She smiled nervously. "I hope so." Winter tested them again, but this time the fear felt smaller. Lydia's pregnancy was not easy. Some mornings she felt weak and sick, and Owen worried constantly. But she refused to give up working with the horses. Thunder rarely left her side. In April of 1880, as the hills bloomed again, Lydia went into labor. Owen paced outside their bedroom, while Rosa helped her inside. He had faced storms and droughts and angry men without fear, but nothing had ever shaken him like those long hours of waiting. Then he heard it, a cry, thin and strong. Rosa opened the door, smiling. "You have a son," she said. Owen entered the room and saw Lydia tired but glowing, and holding a tiny dark-haired baby. "We thought we would name him William," she said softly. "After your father." Owen's eyes filled with tears. "It is perfect," he whispered. When he held his son for the first time, something inside him changed forever. The world suddenly felt larger and more fragile and more important all at once. The years passed quickly after that. Grace was born 2 years later, gentle and bright. Then twin boys, Henry and Thomas. Then little Emma, who seemed to come into the world already smiling. The house filled with noise and laughter, boots scattered by the door, small voices calling from the yard. Lydia balanced motherhood and the ranch with steady strength. She often worked in the stable with a baby tied gently against her chest. Thunder grew old beside them, calm and loyal. But he became William's shadow as the boy learned to walk, then run, then ride. The ranch grew too. More land, more cattle. More horses trained under Lydia's careful hands. Her reputation spread across California. Men traveled miles to learn from her. She never charged for teaching. She simply said that knowledge should be shared. In 1898, Thunder passed peacefully in his stall at the age of 26. Lydia held his head in her lap as he took his final breath. They buried him on a hill overlooking the ranch. William, now grown, stood beside his father and mother as they lowered the stallion into the earth. "He brought us together," Lydia whispered. "Yes," Owen said. "He did." Life continued. William took on more responsibility. Grace became a teacher in town. The twins followed their mother's path with horses. Emma's paintings began to hang in galleries in Los Angeles. Through it all, Owen and Lydia remained side by side. On their 20th wedding anniversary, Owen took Lydia back to the stable. The building had expanded over the years, but the stall where he first found her remained the same. "Do you remember that morning?" he asked. "I remember everything," she said softly. "You were brushing a horse that trusted no one, and you were staring at me like I had stolen something." She teased gently. "I knew right then," Owen said. "I just did not know how much you would change my life." She touched his face. "We changed it together." They kissed beneath the lantern light, just as they had years before. Time moved quietly after that. Grandchildren filled the yard. Rosa passed peacefully in her sleep. Old friends followed. Yet there were droughts and hard seasons and moments of sorrow. But the family they built stood strong. By 1910, Owen's hair had turned white. Lydia's hands moved slower, but were still gentle with horses. They often sat on their porch in August, watching the sunrise over the hills. "Do you believe it was fate?" Lydia asked one morning. "I believe it was choice," Owen replied. "You chose to follow a lonely horse's call. I chose to trust what I felt, and we kept choosing each other every day." She leaned against him. "When I die," she said quietly, "bury me beside Thunder on that hill. Let me watch over this ranch." "Not for many years," Owen said firmly. She smiled. But 12 years later, in 1922, Lydia passed in her sleep. She was 68. Owen buried her beside Thunder just as she wished. When the headstone read that she had taught them all how love and patience could gentle even the wildest hearts. Owen lived 3 more years. He still rode the fence lines, still offered advice, but everyone could see the light had dimmed inside him. One August morning in 1925, he saddled his horse and rode up the hill. He sat between Lydia's grave and Thunder's, looking out over the ranch they had built. When the family found him that evening, he was leaning peacefully against her headstone. His heart had simply stopped. They buried him beside her. And the ranch continued. Generation after generation carried on the story of how it all began. Of a woman traveling alone with $2 in her pocket. Of a cowboy who trusted his horse's judgment. Of a stallion who trusted no one until the right hands touched him. On quiet August mornings, when the sun rises over the hills and the air is still, the stable seems to hum softly with memory. A brush moving through dark hair. A woman humming. A cowboy standing frozen in the doorway. And the moment everything changed. Because sometimes love does not begin with fireworks. Sometimes it begins with patience, with respect, with one brave choice, and with a horse that finally decides to trust.